All right, so without getting into all of the nitty gritty details and rehashing everything, all of the comments with Jennifer Aniston, Quentin Tarantino, and Samuel L. Jackson, we're not going to retell everybody's statements, but this week, Robert Downey Jr. did say some pretty compelling comments, and I thought these comments in particular were worth talking about. And not that the previous ones weren't, I just didn't necessarily want to insert myself in on the conversation because I didn't really feel like I had a whole lot to bring to it. But with that down, Robert Downey Jr. was asked himself what he thought about Tarantino's comments, whether or not, Marvel stars, are they movie stars? Is the character of Iron Man, Thor, Captain America bigger than the actual actors themselves? And Downey said this: I think that we are in a time and place that I unwittingly contributed to where IP has taken precedence over principle and personality. But it's a double-edged sword. A piece of IP is only as good as the human talent you get to represent it. And you can have some great IP even if it's coming from an auteur or a national treasure of a writer-director. And if you don't have the right kind of artist playing that role, you'll never know how good it could have been. The actor went on to say that the argument around the MCU is pointless, adding, I think that creatively it is a waste of time to be at war with ourselves. The actor also noted that he was previously annoyed about criticisms and conversations like this, but he's reached a point where he'd rather just get over it. Quote, throwing stones one way or another, and I've had my reactions in the past when people said things that I felt were discrediting my integrity. I go, you know what? Let's just get over it. We're all a community. And that was the part that I really thought was compelling. Downey Jr. also pointed out that when big blockbusters earn billions at the box office, it can actually help make space for smaller projects getting greenlit. Quote, there's enough room for everything, and thank God for Top Gun Maverick and Avatar: The Way of Water. That's all I have to say. We need the big stuff to make room for films like Armageddon Time. So, Eleanor, a lot of comments. He mentioned films like Top Gun Maverick and even Avatar: The Way of Water. James Cameron's not the biggest fan of Marvel. Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr., heavily attached to Marvel. And he's being very, polite by saying he respectfully disagrees. And you do need talent to play these roles. Comic book movies, is it an art form? This is a question, a debate that's been going on for years. We're not going to settle it here. Robert Downey Jr. doesn't even want to talk about it really, but what he is saying is, yeah, it does take both. What do you think?
So I personally like his comments about Community as well, because we all have to remember, the actors, the screenwriters, directors, the companies that produce the movies, the viewers, everyone, the critics even, we're all one big community. Whether we like each other or not, we're all in this thing together. And, we might as well try to get along and celebrate one another instead of trying to tear the other one down. And I appreciate that he was kind of pointing out that it's been kind of cliquish and almost like high school girls tearing at each other because one girl is more popular than the other. And so I appreciate him kind of telling, it's okay to not like these movies and not have to tear each other down. You can still support one another and unite as a community. And I think he is right that you do have to have your bigger films to open up the door for your smaller films. Because look at the MCU. They started with like Captain America and Iron Man and Hulk and Thor to open up to the Avengers. And then that opened the door for things like Miss Marvel, Captain Marvel, Doctor Strange, which I'd never heard of Doctor Strange, and other niche characters that no one really knew about, or I guess, not no one, but some people didn't know about, like me, the average movie-going audience, and really opened up the door for that in the Marvel universe. And I think these bigger films do that for smaller films, even if it's like something huge like Way of Water opening up something for an indie film. I think it does open a lot of doors. And instead of looking at the doors that are closed, I think people need to look at those open doors and take those opportunities by the balls and go for it. So I really did like Robert Downey Jr.'s take on this because he was polite, he was kind, but he still was having a take no crap attitude. So I really appreciated that. He was standing up for the community without hurting anyone else's feelings. And I think that's honestly the best take you can have.
Right, not furthering the argument or the debate or being aggressive, hostile. He didn't put anybody down with it.
Right. He was really nice about it. And, there's just, we're also used to seeing the ugly and everyone being on the defensive with things, that it's nice to just see someone being gentle and kind with their critiques. He's not being rude. He's not being, like you said, he's not being hostile. He's just pointing out his feelings and kind of pointing out the facts to everyone and just reminding, all these people who are angry about Marvel that, these people, the IP, yes, can sometimes overshadow things, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because you do need really great actors in order for these IP to be brought to life. So I really appreciated it.
And speaking of Marvel, that brings us to our second